My debut novel, The Quiet, is now available to pre-order. There are links in the description and there'll be more info at the end. It's been 5 years since I published my video on Star Wars. I've changed a lot since, but what hasn't changed is my strong and ardent belief that that video is incomplete. There was always one theme that I was desperate to analyse but couldn't find a place for. And so, now that I'm back, I thought it was finally time to take a brief look at what I think is perhaps the greatest thing John Williams ever wrote for the Star Wars saga. Yep, you guessed it. Yub Nub. I'm kidding, of course. It's Across the Stars. I first watched Attack of the Clones in the cinema when I was 11. I remember recreating the Yoda Dooku fight in a school assembly with a friend, but I also remember asking my parents for the soundtrack so I could listen to that music. Across the Stars is a strange thing for an 11-year-old to be interested in, not least because it's the most explicitly romantic thing that John Williams ever wrote for Star Wars. George Lucas wanted Williams to tap into scores from the golden age of Hollywood for this theme, looking back to a time when sex was something that was implied and not shown. For classic romances, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, Now Voyager, music had to do the heavy lifting. If you couldn't show eroticism because it was considered uncouth to do so, it had to be communicated in the music. That's where Across the Stars came from. It feels on the edge of something exciting and dangerous because it is. It implies more than it shows. But it also hides more than it lets on. Let's start with the opening interval, first played by the oboe, but later picked up by strings, brass, and other woodwind. The minor sixth already has a weighty romantic history. Look no further than Francis Lai's classic theme for Love Story. But it comes to mean much more when placed in the context of other Star Wars music. Shift the interval up one semitone, giving you a major sixth, and you get the opening to Princess Leia's theme. Down one semitone to a perfect fifth, and you get Luke's theme, the Star Wars theme.
Doesn't look like we have much of a choice, but I'll remind him.
So, in the middle of these two intervals, we get the interval for their parents, Anakin and Padme. For the harmony of the theme, Williams takes advantage of the language of his and other love themes. The theme is in D minor to begin with, but at the tail end of the A section, we get a chord taken from a completely different mode, an E-flat major chord, the flattened second, referred to as a Neapolitan chord. Williams has used this a lot before. In fact, let's roll VT.
These three chords, the tonic, the supertonic half-diminished seventh, and the flattened supertonic, combined with the interval of a major sixth, represent for Williams the exotic, love, and romance. And if you know what you're listening out for, you begin to hear these everywhere in his work. Han and Leia's love theme from The Empire Strikes Back begins with a major sixth and has an almost identical chord sequence to Leia's theme. In Return of the Jedi, the beautiful, but not often heard Luke and Leia theme again alternates between the supertonic half-diminished seventh and the tonic, and then moves to the flattened supertonic.
The flattened second creates a bridge between this theme and those from the original trilogy, but placed in the context of this largely modal and folk-like harmonic treatment of the melody in the A and B sections, the flattened second doesn't end up sounding romantic or erotic to me, but something different. afraid and unsure. If you listen to this music in isolation, not knowing anything about the story, you would be forgiven for thinking it was written not for two star-crossed lovers, but for a tragedy. The B section hints at this, its shifting harmonic language, the way it steals notes and chords from distant modalities. But then, the middle section of the theme abandons all pretense of love. The melody itself is 12-tone, jumping between every one of the 12 semitones of the chromatic scale, whilst brass chords try to find stable ground underneath. And even after it finds its footing, it seems to have completely forgotten how the theme began. Settling into a militaristic march with crisp horn interjections, almost heraldic calls to battle, reminding us of the fight that will come. The love theme is there, but there's little romance in it anymore, split between woodwind and brass in this call and response way. However, all is not lost. The strings come to life with a rising tremolo line, leading to a recapitulation of the theme in F-sharp minor. As it tries to keep hold of what hope is left. This is a love story set against the backdrop of war, and the music won't let us forget that. Like the lacing of the Imperial March into Anakin's theme, Williams laced Anakin and Padme's story, their separation, their tragedy, their fate, into their music. So whilst Lucas intended Williams to look backwards to the halcyon days of Hollywood for Across the Stars, what he might not have expected was for him to look so far forwards to what would come for Anakin and Padme. And maybe that's why I connected with it so much as an 11-year-old, not just because it hinted at something more subversive and adult, but because it didn't pretend to be something that it wasn't. I respected it for that back then, and I still respect it to this day. Thank you so much for watching. As you saw from the intro, my debut novel, The Quiet, is now available to pre-order. So this book follows the story of Hannah and her son Isaac, and they live in a world where an enormous spherical field called the Sound Field has covered the Earth. This field produces a constant background hum and has also accelerated climate change, leading to a massive refugee crisis from the southern hemisphere to the north, and meaning people need to sleep during the day and work at night. The Quiet will be released in the UK and the US in May 2025, and you can now pre-order using the links in the description. Take a look at my website as well for more information about the story. Pre-ordering is really the best way to help out me as an author, as it contributes to first week sales, meaning I'm more likely to get on those elusive bestseller lists. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.